All right. Welcome to the Scorched Earth podcast for Sunday, February 16th, 2025. Wow, we made it through Valentine's Day. I'm not sure if we all made it in one piece, but okay, let's go on to the next holiday. If you could, though, please leave a like and subscribe. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave some comments. I'll try and bring them up on the air or respond to them in the comment section. I always like to know what you want to hear about, different stories. Do you like me going in depth on a story or two, or maybe going a little off the reservation? I've always liked going off the reservation. Burn it all, baby. So, as you get older, hopefully you get some wisdom. Hopefully you learn some things. And yesterday was the funeral of a guy I worked with for a long time. His name was Scott. And Scott was a character. And you start to appreciate these things a little more as you get older and hopefully a little more intuitive or empathetic. I definitely have become that in my life. And Scott was a funny guy. I saw him right before he passed in December, and we had a nice conversation. We actually had a falling out. He was an ardent Trump supporter, and I trolled him on his own page, and he kind of got a little angry, and we had a little tiff, and we didn't talk, and then I heard he was sick, and I went down to the hospital, and we had a nice conversation, and it was beautiful. I kind of knew I wasn't going to get to talk to him again, and I really appreciated the time I spent with him. I spent 2 hours, and I left, and I was thinking, that's the last time I'm going to see that brother, probably. We told each other, you do these things when you're in the hospital, and you tell each other, yeah, we're going to have lunch. And, that was my sincere intention is when he got out. But, I was kind of skeptical. He had some sepsis and he had some aggressive cancers. And it was a difficult situation, to say the least. And, but I wanted to give him hope. And, I wanted to see my friend again. And I'll tell you a funny story about Scott. And Scott was, we were in the construction game. And Scott was I always kind of called him Chinese food, because he was one of those guys who would erupt like a volcano. And then literally 20 minutes later, he'd come up to you and go, hey, buddy, are we going to go to lunch? He'd forget all about it, like Chinese food, like half hour later, you're all hungry. And he was just always, he had his moments, you're in the construction thing. You're dealing with a lot of alpha males and everybody's trying to stake off their turf and whatever. And Scott was just like that. He was an incredibly talented individual, but you come on his turf, he was going to stomp on your foot a little, but he never held grudges. One of the few guys I met that really didn't hold grudges. I wish I was a lot more like him when I was younger. I'm at the point now, I do emulate him. I don't hold grudges anymore. But I know that I can encounter people who are toxic with me. And it is funny, though, after saying that, my entire circle is almost Republican, except for maybe super producer Stacy. So, Scott told me a story once. Excuse me. And he was married for about 20 years. And he had 4 kids. And, he had his last kid, and about 5 years later, him and his wife got divorced, and he went out and he found this other lady, Mary. And about 2 years later, they got married. And, about 2 or 3 years after that, she comes home and says, I got great news, Scott. And Scott said, well, what's that, Mary? And she says, we are going to have a kid. And Scott, cherishing the moment, cherishing this precious, precious entity that was life, said, who are you sleeping with, you slut? Whoa. The wife was like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And he goes, you know what? After my last kid, I had a vasectomy. I never told you. I never told anybody. He goes, so who have you been sleeping with? And his wife, she's stunned. She's stuttering like, no, I haven't slept with anybody. I haven't done that. And Scott goes, you know what? You're nothing but a slut and a whore. He goes, I don't even want to be in the same room with you. Well, about 3 weeks later, Scott found out that his vasectomy that he had slipped and that he was firing live bullets. Yeah. That took him a while. To get back in his wife's good graces. But Scott never meant no harm. We'll miss you, my friend. You made the world a lot more fun. All right, and off we go. Taking no prisoners, telling no lies, and we're going to get to the news today. Like I said, please hit that like and subscribe button. I need your support. I need your comments. So the BBC is reporting that the top U.S. envoy is going to meet with Russian officials for the Ukraine peace talks in Saudi Arabia in the upcoming days. Here we go. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio plans to meet Russian officials very soon for talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. The White House said Ukraine would be involved, but President Zelensky of Ukraine said that they weren't invited to Saudi Arabia for talks. And Europe is not involved in these talks. It is exclusively just the United States and Russia. And Europe feels like they are being cut out of the decisions on a country on their continent. Makes sense. We have autonomy, in the Western Hemisphere here, right? Teddy Roosevelt and all. And so now the European leaders are going to have an emergency meeting in Paris for a summit on the war. This is going to get sideways real quick. Now you have the United States and Russia deciding what Ukraine's going to do. Ukraine's not there. This is really similar to two parties are going to go through a divorce, and one of the parties is not involved in negotiations to settle the divorce. They're going to be told XYZ at the end. I don't really think that's going to work. And also, the European officials, countries that have given quite a bit of aid to the Ukraine have no say in what's going on their continent. It'd be like, England and Argentina deciding what happens with Cuba. Yeah, sure, that would go really well. So late Saturday, of course, at this point, this is where we find out how the Trump administration lied. U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, said that the reason previous talks failed is because too many parties were involved. Why don't we just come out and say Ukraine's not going to be involved in talks about their own country that was invaded by an aggressive neighbor? Yeah. Okay, there we go. So we're not bringing Ukraine to the talks. We're going to take care of this. Now, this obviously comes on the heels of Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday night criticizing European democracies. Like we've talked before in this podcast, it's like your block. It is like your block, and you have this great neighbor, okay? And he helps everybody, and you got a problem, they come and help you. They're not really looking for remuneration or anything like that. They just help because it's the right thing to do. Now, if something happens to that neighbor or that neighbor needs a favor, you're definitely going to reach out. You're going to say, yeah, here, what can I do? Yeah. But if you have the neighbor, conversely, that doesn't help anybody, that keeps everything, has a fence around their house, always bitching about you, never gets involved, never helps, never is involved in the street barbecue on the 4th of July. Are you going to help them if they come to your house at 2 a.m, say, I got a broken water line, can you help me? No. Nah, sorry. All booked up here, man. You only get what you give. And I will say this, that after COVID, China and the U.S. really started to race away from the rest of the world. There's a bigger discrepancy than ever. And we're going to see all these grandiose ideas of how Trump thinks he's going to pare back the federal government with USAID, which is a humanitarian organization, foreign aid, things like that. Let's see how that all works out. Now, Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, on his new Destroy America's Reputation tour, said it was very unlikely Ukraine would see its original borders restored in negotiations. Also said it was unlikely they'd be allowed to join NATO. You know, let me help Pig out. At the end of the day, you don't give away things before negotiations ever begin. You know, it's like, let's go back to the divorce thing. You've got a house worth $1 million and, you know, you start out by saying, it's going to go 50-50. And you go, you know what? I'm not giving you more than $700,000. Like, wow. Okay. That's the starting point. $700,000. Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right. Further down in the news, I will tell you this. Even though I hate the Trump administration, man, they give you plenty of stuff every day. Every effing day. The Trump administration Friday night fired 20 immigration judges without explanation, a union official said Saturday night. Not clear if they'll be replaced. The U.S. Justice Department Executive Office for Immigration Review, which runs the court system for immigration, and its 700 judges had no comment. So 20 out of 700, 3% were cut. You know, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's not too bad, JT. Why are you gonna hark on this? I'm gonna tell you. And listen carefully, young ones. Listen carefully. According to Syracuse University's Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, which literally, I looked at that sentence like 5 times to try and figure out what those words all meant. But, you know, maybe we can just say, let's go with the abbreviation, SUTRAC. Okay? Let's go with that. No clue what it was, and I'll probably never come back to it again. Says there's over 3.7 million cases backlogged currently in the U.S. immigration system. Now, when it comes to deportation, the average case takes 1.5 years, okay, while they go through, democratic processes, appeals, things like that. Last month, the DOJ halted financial support for non-governmental organizations who provide support and guidance for those facing deportation. Kind of like when you're faced with criminal charges, you get a public defender. You also get other resources to help defend yourself. That also extends to people facing deportation. We're trying to give them adequate, well, not adequate, but at least some farcical support so they can defend themselves against what they consider unfair, right? Of course, this funding was resumed a week later when numerous nonprofit groups filed a lawsuit in federal court and a judge granted them a stay. We keep talking about it. This money has been allocated for these different agencies and these different funds, these laws. The Trump administration needs to abide by that. You can't cut the funding and say you saved it. I mean, really, at the end of the day, and all you Republicans out there who are listening, all I'm going to say is this. All right, you want to do that? You want to go ahead and say it's waste? In 4 years, I pray we get a Democrat who says, you know what, the Defense Department, I'm going to cut the funding. Let's see what kind of shit fit they have then. Let's see how it all melts down then. Because you know what? It's coming one way and it's coming another. And you know what? I wait for the day when a Republican nominates somebody for the Supreme Court and the Democrats have control of Congress, the Senate, and we go, you know what? We're not gonna deal with that till the next election. Sorry. Good luck. Night. And then we're gonna have a Supreme Court with 8 people or 7 people. Yeah, let's see. I can't wait for that. All right, talking about funding cuts, let's get to FEMA and all the assorted agencies that are coming with that. As we speak, a powerful storm is bringing in life-threatening flooding in the eastern half of the U.S. over the next few days. Millions of Americans were under flood warnings in Southwest Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. I don't know if you ever saw Kingpin, but Bill Murray is just so funny when he does the Big Brother thing and he says, Kentucky. Weather likely to cause tornadoes all the way up from central Louisiana all the way up to Tennessee. Now, got Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who, I love this guy, has already declared a state of emergency on Friday because he sees what's coming, getting everything ready. Wonder if the upcoming or already FEMA cuts will be received well in these Republican areas. The Trump administration on Friday fired 400 Department of Homeland Security employees, and a majority were FEMA. Yeah, you guys want to bitch about you don't think the Biden administration with FEMA was responsive enough in Asheville, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. All right, let's cut 400 more. Let's see how that works. And let's talk about the truth here. A big part of FEMA is they give low-cost loans to people to rebuild. Well, where do you think the Trump administration is going to come down on that? You know, and that's something nobody talks about. Like, for pretty much, FEMA gives them the loans. The vetting process, it's not like when you're going for a home mortgage. They're pretty lax at giving them. Well, what if the Trump administration decides to run it through a bank system? And then you got to reapply. And then you want to build a $500,000 house. You owe a mortgage, let's just say hypothetically, but your land's only worth $100,000. The bank says, well, you're going to have to put $250,000 into it. Well, until the insurance pays, you're going to be in some big problems. And I mean, you're paying the mortgage still on land that has no house. That's going to be a serious problem. All right, a couple little tidbits in the news to lighten up your Sunday. Pope Francis, hospitalized for bronchitis. He's in fair condition. I would say this as the Academy Awards come up. I really, probably next to Dune 2, my favorite movie of last year, well, I liked Wicked too, was Conclave. And it's basically the story of a Pope passing away and the College of Cardinals who elect the Pope get together, and the whole back intrigue of the infighting, the greed, the power plays that these cardinals go through to elect the next Pope. Thought it was just brilliant. Growing up Catholic, you know, there's such a mysticism about what goes on in the Vatican, and I think it cut through a lot of it, and wow, made it really incredibly human. It is definitely a movie I would wholeheartedly say go see it. Even if you're not religious, even if you're not Catholic, it is a really, really good drama. Really good. Finally, this is going to be a story you may have heard of over the years, but it's kind of intriguing. An Englishman, James Howell, who threw a hard drive with the info for $800 million in Bitcoin in 2013, now wants to buy the landfill. Oh God! Can you imagine? You know, the other day I traded in my my old Samsung for an iPhone, and they gave me an $800 credit at Verizon, right? And I kept the other phone just so in case I lost some contacts, I got 30 days to turn it back in. And I thought I lost the backup phone, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I'm going to owe $800. What kind of an idiot am I?" Well, what about this James Howell? He threw away some hard drives that had Bitcoin that is now valued at $800 million. I don't know if James Howell is in a relationship, but if he was when this went down, he probably isn't anymore, because there isn't anybody who's going to put up with, "Oh yeah, hey Snookums, thanks for losing me $800 million. So he's tried everything already to access the Docksway landfill in Newport in Cardiff, Wales. All right. He's already announced this before. He's already sent out scavenger crews, things like that. But I wonder how many independent people, when they heard there's this jackpot out there, have been looking for this stuff. He offered the Newport City Council $70 million to dig up the landfill, and they gave him the middle finger. I don't understand that one. I don't understand what's going on there because, God, $70 million just to let the guy go play in there with his Tonka toys. All right, whatever. So this is where the backstory is. He threw out 3 hard drives in August of 2013 when he was cleaning out his house. He put them in a trash bag, and his partner, for safekeeping, and his partner accidentally threw it out, and he didn't realize it for a week. It was $9 million back then, and now it's worth over $800 million. This is what this cat says. All right, man. Here we go, baby. Now, the reason he's going even more public now is the city council plans on closing the landfill next year, so the chase is on. And let me tell you something. I don't know if you've seen old movies like It's a Mad, Mad World, where you have all these different entities, or The Great Race, that all these different entities are trying to procure some type of money and all the things they'll do. Let me tell you, everybody for 100 miles around is in that dump every day. Trying to find that bag with the 3 hard drives. You know what I was thinking, though? Maybe Trump, instead of buying Greenland or taking over Canada, he could just get this dump here. There's $1 billion start, right? Get that Bitcoin. Maybe we can commandeer this landfill in Cardiff, Wales. Maybe Donnie doesn't know what that's all about, though. All right. Well, I hope you had a good Saturday. I hope you have a great Sunday. Please, once again, hit the like and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Leave your comments in there. Go Boston. And I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. All right. I'll see you soon.